How's it going, Jordan? So you got a hand for us?
Yep, I do.
All right.
Go ahead and get into it.
Yeah, absolutely. Where's this one played out of?
This is out of Cherokee in North Carolina.
Cherokee.
Yep.
Awesome. That's a place that I've been to one time. I remember before COVID. What is that? The Smoky Mountain Range or something like that? The Great Smoky Mountain Range.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Quite the drive from Asheville to Cherokee.
It's a little hard to get to.
Yeah, through the mountains. I actually went to one of the best Indian trading posts I ever have in my life. But it was a nice room. It was a nice room. So what's the size of the game you're playing?
Yeah, it's a 2-5 mattress stack, and this happened a couple weeks ago when the WSOP was in town.
Oh, nice. 2-5 match, huh?
Yep.
And how deep are you? What are the effective stacks here?
1,500 effective.
2-5 match. And I do remember this is actually kind of a, not as simple, but it's kind of a quick little spot. So we'll talk about how to think about this. Okay, so 2-5, 1,500 effective, 2-5 match. Okay.
So there's a button straddle, and I'm in middle position.
So button straddle. So it's 2-5-10. Okay.
Yep.
Uh-huh.
2 limps to me, and I got black jacks. I raised it to 65.
So 2 limps to you. Hero in MP to 65. So 2 limps at 2-5-10. Okay, that's definitely reasonable.
Mm-hmm. And the button straddle calls, and then the big blind who limp calls.
Button straddle calls.
So 3 ways.
So the limpers get out of there.
One of the limpers called. One of them folded.
Okay, so button straddle calls, one limper calls, and you got blackjacks.
Yep.
All right, so looks like pot's maybe just a hair under, 200? Something like that. Maybe a little bit over with the limpers. Maybe we'll call it 200. Yep. Okay.
So the flop is 10 of hearts, 8 of hearts, 4 of spades.
10 of hearts, 8 of hearts, 4 of spades. Hero with a black overpair that needs some protection here, Jordan. Okay.
I bet 60. I probably could have sized up a little bit more. I went about half pot.
So big blind checks, right? Big blind or whoever.
Sorry, big blind checks.
Yeah, okay.
I go about 1/3. I'd make it 60. Only the button calls.
And just a little bit of clarity going back and forth. Because of the button straddle, probably the big blind did limp, right, to enter. I'm assuming because it goes in like round in order, I would assume.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's why the big blind is a limper. So check to hero who bet 60 into 200. Button calls, limper folds. So, of course, button is next to act. So that call is a little bit stronger than if he would be closing the action here. This is not, it's a single raise pot. It's not a 2 Broadway board, the ones that we talk about, like 2 Broadway connected, like a queen, jack 5, 2 flush. I mean, you don't have a set of jacks there, but you know what I mean? Like, it's not one of those ones where we always like to go sort of 2/3. I got to be honest with you, Jordan, I would still probably go a little bit here on the larger side when there's not a whole lot of 2 pair that's going to be represented in a certain situation. I mean, I know 10-8 suited is out there, but that's about it. What were the skill levels of these players, just out of curiosity?
Yeah, that's something I was going to get into. The villain on the button, I see him play like 5-10 and bigger.
Okay.
Regularly.
Mm-hmm.
I see him buy in like deep to the bigger games. So I thought he was definitely capable of making like some big time bluffs. So
what's interesting about that before we go to the turn here too is that sometimes you do check over pairs, but they would be sort of lean towards ones that wouldn't need protection as much. And when I asked you about like the player opponents, like the theory, now we actually advocate on Crush Live Poker, Jordan. I think you're a CLP sub. I mean, we sort of have an approach of a lot of robust bet folding. Again, even taking some hands that traditionally might not bet and betting like a larger volume of them. I mean, that's a small stakes exploit. And the reason why that is because when you're up against typical opponents at this level, they will just call and raise when they have the goods. Like they'll call down too light and they just don't find like enough bluffs, which is why you can sort of make that live hack. Now, when you're playing against somebody who you think might be tough, there is a consideration of sometimes taking a hand that you don't want to bet fold and sometimes checking it. Now, I'm not saying that, I mean, if you bet here and get raised, you're probably going to continue anyways, but that's just the, like say if it was like 10-8-7 and you had like pocket kings or something, you know what I mean? Something like that. So I would still sort of tend to size up here. I mean, I don't think going 1/3 is necessarily criminal, but okay, 60 and a call, and you're at 320 now. Okay.
Then the turn is the 7 of spades.
7 of spades here is the turn. So that brings in of course, Jack 9, but you've got 2 jacks in your hand. Okay.
Right. And yeah, that was kind of my thinking. I was double blocking the nuts. So, I mean, I blasted it. I go 320, so I pot it.
Wow. So hero bets 320. Here's my thought on this one, though, Jordan. I mean, if you are a little bit concerned this guy plays big and maybe he thinks that you don't play as big, this is traditionally a card that might get checked a fair amount. Now, maybe not as much with your combo because you have Jack, but whenever I'm in a position like this, sometimes I'll start to take a hand and play it like a bluff catcher if I'm up against somebody that might be capable of putting me in a really shitty spot. So I don't know if I would take I think I might do a fair amount of checking here. And I don't know if I would go like the overbet size because then you're just going to get all like any type of floats or anything like that. He's just going to kind of fold. Now, he did call next to act on the flop, so he should have something. Backdoor spades come in here as well, but it's a little bit on the dicey side, I think, to go overbet here on this turn. But okay, so or full pot size bet, but you go 320, yeah.
Yeah, and this is where I think I messed up. Then he jams for 1,300, so it's 1,000 back to me to call.
All right, so button jam. So before you tell us what to do here, let's do a little pot odds here. So he jams for 1,000 more, right? So like 1,320 total. So looks like the pot 640 plus 1,320 is what, like right around like 1,960, and it would be about 1,000 for you to call, something like that.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you do have jacks, so you block the nuts, right? Now, if you got black jacks, you don't necessarily have the best combo of jacks here to call down with. The best one, of course, would be to unblock the front door and the back door, like if you had jack of clubs, jack of diamonds here. So he can't make this move with like some jack X of spades type of holding here. It's interesting because of the fact, if you think he's a solid player, the 7, people are like, well, he could have like 8-7 here for 2 pair. Like he could be jamming like a lot more hands than just, Jack 9. But he really shouldn't. I mean, we're just going to go back to logical hand reading. He really shouldn't have 7-8 here, even when you make the small bet, which is why sometimes you make this small bet. Like, I don't think 8-7 should be a defend to the flop when there's a guy behind him. Now, if he was heads up, of course it would be a defend. So that kind of goes out the window. And then 5-6 was like the ass end of a gut shot. He probably shouldn't have that. He shouldn't really have 6-9. If you take those 2 pair combos out, then you're really looking at, well, does he have Jack 9 here, or did he flop a set and then just slow play? I mean, what were your thoughts here?
I was thinking on such a draw heavy board that his set combinations would have been less, especially 3-handed. I would have thought he would have raised off.
And you did bet small too, which I think would tend to want sets to raise here.
I just couldn't. I tanked for like 5 minutes, and I think against 90% of the population, I think I probably instant muck.
Mm-hmm.
But I couldn't get over the fact that like I double blocked Jack 9, and I kind of felt like he was trying to play a little, I don't know, bully ball with me a little bit.
Well, again, if you believe me what I say in the sense that just did good logical hand reading here, that really, because you block Jack 9, and because we think that he would tend to not slow play on a texture like this, multi-way versus your small sizing, and that he shouldn't have 8-7 here. Now, he could have 10-8, but that goes right into the whole set combo of slow play. I mean, I think that might even get raised off more, right? Then the 7 doesn't really change anything except give equity to hands that have draws in them. You have a sliver of chop outs, right, against Jack 9. You need about 33% equity. If you can find bluffs with one card to come, even like the most mega bluffs. I mean, say he has semi bluffs have 25% equity against you. Let's say he had equal 25%, say semi bluffs, say like 2 combos of draws and 2 combos of like Jack 9, which, give yourself maybe like 5%. Then you're looking at like averaging 75% equity and 5% equity. And, 75 plus 5 is 80 divided by 2 is 40%. So you only need 33%. So, I mean, I think I might be able to get on board here with the call. I do agree with you that like against the general population at this level, you might just snap fold given the situation, but I don't hate a call if that's what you're considering here.
Yeah, and I found the call and he flipped over Jack 9. So,
well, and you did not chop. Well, I don't think it's that bad of a call personally here, Jordan. I mean, if you can do, if you run I don't know if it did cross your mind that you didn't think he had 8-7. Some people saying, well, couldn't he have 8-7 versus small sizing? Yeah, it's possible. Hero also has a bunch of equity against 7-8 too. I still don't think 7-8 should call here to a $60 C bet with a guy behind. So I don't know if you considered that, but.
Yeah, I think that's also part of my problem sometimes is kind of ranging people on their button straddle defense.
Yeah.
Because, people defend a lot wider than they should. And, it kind of.
Let me ask you this question. If you bet larger on the flop, like say you went 2/3 and then 2/3 on turn, would that change your mind about calling?
Let's see. If I went 2/3 on flop,
yeah.
So that'd be what, about 120?
Yeah.
And then, so 200, 300.
I mean, forget about say you're just still getting 2-1 in pot odds.
Probably if he jams the turn when I go 2/3, yeah, I think it'd be easier. I just thought, I try to count the combos of hands. I thought maybe he could turn into a semi bluff, and
yeah,
I thought too, even if I'm, up against a set or whatnot, I still have a 9, still have a jack, So I thought, I was getting the right price. Even with that guy, maybe I'm kind of overvaluing his bluff. I don't know if that guy is bluffing when I, blast the turn like that when I'm kind of so polar.
Sounds to me like you would probably easier fold like other overpairs, and probably queens would be the worst overpair here. And the reason why that is just a subtle thing would be because, like, if you had aces or kings and he was doing it with some sort of combo draw with overcards, there's more of a chance that queens faces an overcard right against the semi bluff range, whereas with aces. But I mean, you just move on. I think it's fine. Thank you very much for the call. I appreciate it.